Yeah. We must have.
No, when I say went once. Oh no, so.
Okay. Oh, you did that right that way around. But I don't know what. I'm trying. I can't remember whether we must have. I think I recall doing that. What do you mean?
Do your own. And the point to see if someone's elderly, infirm, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course. But there's all mitzvah by Yosef and b'shluchai, and that's also different because there you have your own place. You're just asking someone as a shliach to do it for you.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the point is that if someone has no chiyuv because they have no place, they should rent a room for a minimal amount. They should give £1 to the place they're staying. Let's say their parents or parents-in-law, whatever it is, and rent the room they're staying in, and then do b'dikas chometz on that room, so they fulfill mitzvahs b'dikas chometz themselves. That's the point. That is the point. So yeah. Okay, right. Fascinating question we're going to deal with this evening. New sugya. So the new sugya. Well, it's not quite. It's almost new sugya. Those who weren't here last week should catch up on the video because it was a very in-depth sugya. Very in-depth sugya. But the conclusion of the sugya was we're up to 2 dots on Mem Vav Amud Aleph. Okay, Mem Vav Amud Aleph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines down. The conclusion of the sugya was that there is a machlokes between Abai and Rabbo. Abai says, if you see the clothes in the house of the Uman, this is all just explaining the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Uman ein lo chazaka. An Uman, a craftsman, or anyone who's a tradesman, whatever, he can never form a chazaka. Why? Because I gave it to you to fix or to mend or to clean. So therefore, how can you form chazaka? And the question was, on what case does he not have a chazaka? Abai says, and this is the halacha, it's when you see it in his house or in his shop. So you walk into the shop, you see the clothes hanging up, finish, game over. He is not allowed to claim any sort of chazaka. You sold it to me, you did this to me, I'm not interested, right? He can turn around and say, hey, you sold it to me, I'm not interested in you. Why? Because Abai holds that it's like things that are normally rented and normally rented. I gave the example of the Avis hire car. It says on the side, this is for hire purposes only, right? You can't claim ownership. You're not going to turn around to the hire company and say, excuse me, you're a car, but you sold it to me. It's ridiculous, yeah? So it's the same thing, you understand? And therefore, Abai says, once you've seen it, now if you haven't seen it in the shop, that's different, because then there's a migo. You can say you sold it to me, and we believe you. Migo, you could have said I gave it back or whatever, because no, it's not there. Who says it's here now? You understand? That's Abai, and that's halacha. So that we refuted the view of Rabbah, where in the conclusion of the Gemora, Rabbah effectively effectively narrowed down the case. The only case, according to Rabbah, where you don't have chazaka, where you can't form chazaka, is where you have the two factors together, where you see it in his house and there are Eidim. Right? Eidim that he handed it over in the first place, yeah? That's Rabbah's view. Because Rabbah says, in any other case, he's able to form a chazaka because he can say, I gave it back. You've got a migo. He could have said, I gave it back to you, or we didn't see it. And even if you had it with an Eidim, because Rabbah does not say you have to give it back with Eidim, right? And even if you saw it in his house, he's still got, according to Rabbah, the ability to form some sort of migo. Because he could have said, since there are no Eidim, that you gave it to me, so believe me that I bought it from you, migo, I could have said that someone else sold it to me who bought it from you, some other spiel or whatever. But we don't hold like Rabbah, we hold like Abai. Is that clear? So when the Mishnah said the Unuman cannot form a chazaka, that is when? What? When you saw it, exactly. When you've seen it in his house, then or in his shop, or whatever, he can't form chazaka.
Every other situation. Yeah.
Correct. And according to Abai, it's irrelevant whether or not you handed it over with Eidim or not. It's all irrelevant. The only question is whether he's seen it in his shop or not. Simple. I wasn't so simple, but the bottom line is simple. It's straightforward. All right. Well, Okay, now a very common question. What we're going to deal with mix-ups. What happens if you get your wrong coat back from the dry cleaners? You get your wrong suit back. Are you allowed to use the suit or not? Good shiloh, no? Tana Rabbanon. Bryce says, Nischalfu lo kalim b'kalim b'veiso oman.
Where was that in?
About 6, 7, or 8 lines down on Mem Vav Amud Aleph. Tana Rabbanon, Nischalfu lo kalim, where the 2 dots, and Nischalfu lo kalim b'kalim b'veiso oman. If you got mixed up, one item with another item, right, in a craftsman's shop. Mamish this case, right? You have a craftsman, tradesman, whatever it is, and you gave him your suit for dry cleaning, and it gives you back the wrong suit. Hareze yishtamish bohen, you're allowed to use the suit or the coat until the other person comes along and takes his back. Right?
To where?
Pardon?
Says comes along. The who?
Well, the other guy comes along.
So you've got his suit.
Well, no, no.
Doesn't he? Then he goes.
When he took yours. Nischalfu means there was an exchange. There was an exchange. You get the wrong. It was a mix-up. That's what it means.
Got your name on.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's mixed up. And basically until you're allowed to continue using your coat, the coat that you were given by mistake, until the other guy comes back and returns your coat. Now, this is a very big chiddush.
He must have the same obligation the other day.
Yeah. But no one is out here to. No one. We'll come back. We'll come later, Mitzvah Hashem, to the people who are out to deceive. Here we're dealing with regular people who are not out to trick anyone. They just took the wrong coat. But this is a very big chiddush. Why is it a chiddush? I don't own this coat.
Yeah.
It's not my coat.
And you know.
I know it's not mine.
You know whose it is. Well, you don't know. Who it is.
Doesn't matter. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. It doesn't matter. Let's say you do. Presumably you do. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Whatever.
Well,
You know it's not yours. You know it's not yours. That's clear.
Therefore, know that it's someone else's. Know that someone else took it to the dry cleaners.
Correct. But the chiddush is, how can I use someone else's property?
Yes, I'm saying you would expect that you would say straight away, you have to take it
Correct. Or at least keep it safe until the other guy comes and claims it and gives you back yours. That would be what you would logically say. Yeah. So this is a big chiddush. You're allowed to do this.
But the other guy's reading the same thing, because it says until the other guy comes and takes what's his.
Yeah.
But if he's waiting for you to go first, and you're waiting for him to go first,
Yeah. That's what I said.
no
No one needs to do anything.
Exactly.
Why is it?
No, you're both in the same place. I think you're both in the same position. It means that you can continue using it until you swap them back.
Why?
Actually, over how long till the other one comes and takes his back. So you've got, meaning keep using it until the other guy shows up at your door, or you show up at his door. Okay, I don't know who needs to go first, whatever. But until you get it sorted out, basically, both of you want your coats back.
We're not wearing the shorts. It's an obligation. You know,
It's worse than the Shabbos Havim. It's a question of Shol Shalom Edas. You're borrowing someone's coat without permission. That's more serious.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Shabbos Aveda, but it's also it's a Shol. I'm using your property without you giving permission.
can't do.
So ostensibly, that should be a problem, right? So that's why we've got to sort this out. Now, interestingly, the Brisa didn't stop there. The Brisa gives another case, but Beves ha'ovel, right? Beves ha'ovel or Beves ha'mishta. If it's in a house of mourning or in a house of a simcha, it's fascinating. Nothing's changed, right? Where are the two places you're most likely that someone else is going to nick your coat?
Sure.
Yeah, the other one should be a shul, right? But basically, a Beis Ovel is a place where people come for a shiva house, right? And a Beis Hamishta is a wedding or a simcha or whatever, all right? And here, the same thing happens. There's a mix-up with the coats. You're not allowed to use this one. You're not allowed to use it until the other guy comes and takes his own back. So something's different. You with me? There's something different between the cases. Ma'ishna Rachel, Ma'ishna Sefer. The Gemora asks, what is the difference in the first case and the second case? Okay, what is the difference in the cases? Omar, now there's two different texts in the Gemara. Omar Rav. The first text is how Rav says, how Yosifna Kami de Chabibi, was sitting in front of Chabibi, which I think is his uncle, my uncle. But Omalin, he said to me, and the Bach skips those words out and has the different text, which is just that Rashbam has the text Omar Bichia. Bichia said, does a person not say ever to a craftsman or to a tailor or whatever, a person working, sell for me my talis? People do that sometimes. Sometimes they instruct the person who's fixing their garment saying, I want you to sell it for me. I want you to sell it for me. Okay, so that's a bit cryptic. So we've got to see what that means. We'll see the Rashbam, right? But basically, we're going to craft a case that the difference between where there's a tradesman involved and a regular case of exchanging in let's say at a chasna or something, is that when a craftsman is involved, yeah, when there's a tradesperson involved, there is a possibility that it was done intentionally, that the person, that the woman gave you the coat on purpose, right? And that gives you the possibility of it being allowed to use it. All right, that's basically in a nutshell what's going on here, right? Let's see the Rashbam. The Rashbam is it's just the line before it gets wide. Can you see that? Yeah, the right at the bottom, right? The craftsman gave him, or the tradesman gave him the talis belonging to someone else. He's allowed to use them until the other one comes, which means the one who took your talis or his talis from the uman. It's not considered to be that you are borrowing without permission. As we're going to say later on, because it's possible to say that the tradesman, the craftsman, gave it to him intentionally, right? And we'll see what that means. Omar Rav Chia says, Tam de Reisha Bolafarish. Rav Chia comes to explain the reason in the first case. What's the difference in the Reisha and the Sefer on the second case? And he says like this: is the person not say to a tradesman or a craftsman, sell for me my talis? Therefore, it's possible to say, Sha'uman mochar talis echod. Well, they say achas, but the Bach changes it to echod. But anyway, it's possible that the Uman sold one talis that he was busy mending at the behest, the command of the owner. They intended, he told him to sell it. And the Uman made a mistake, the tradesman person made a mistake, and he sold the talis.
You sold the wrong talis.
Yeah, the talis of this person. But nosan lo talis zu midas, and he therefore gave him this talis intentionally until he was able to retrieve his talis that he sold incorrectly. The kimah de medaita nosan lo, since he gave it to him intentionally, you're allowed to use it. Or whereas not the case in a mourning house of mourning or in a simcha, because then this is not possible. This possibility is not on the table. So let's understand what happened here. You have a uman, a tradesperson. He's a tailor, whatever. Let's say he's a tailor. There was one person who gave his coat to be tailored and said to him, "I would like you to sell it. I want you to fix it up for me, and I want to make some money from it. I don't need this coat anymore. I'd like you to sell it for me, right?" But Mr. Taylor made a problem. Call him Mr. Schneider, Taylor Schneider, Schneider.
Okay.
Anyway, so he says, and Mr. Schneider made a problem. What did he do? He just sold the wrong one. There was one guy who said, "I want you to mend my suit and sell it, my coat and sell it," and he sold the wrong guy. Next day, the person whose coat he sold by mistake rocks up at his door. Right, Mr. Schneider's shop, and says, "Can I have my coat back?" And he, "Can't believe it. I just sold your coat." He doesn't tell him that. Or maybe he does. But yeah, I just sold your coat. So what does he do? The guy says, "Well, I need a coat. It's like freezing cold outside." So he gives him a different one. It's interesting that, right? You would think that the Uman can't do that.
No, he's giving him the one that he's going to sell.
No.
It's two involved.
Yes, that's right. That's right. He's giving them the one he's going to sell. Yeah, that's true. That's the answer to why he's allowed to do it. Yeah.
Commissions the tailor to sell his coat.
Correct. But the tailor,
and gives his coat for mending.
yes, and doesn't give permission.
He doesn't give permission.
Correct.
He picks up his coat, which happens to be Reuven's coat.
That's right.
So the tailor has not sold it to him.
No,
No.
I got confused.
Maybe.
I'm saying, how many people would
No, Reuven gives a coat. There are two people who each of them hand their coats to the tailor.
Yeah.
Reuven says, "I'd like you to mend it and sell it."
Yeah.
Shimon says, "I'd like you to mend it and give it back to me." Yeah. The tailor mixes the two up, and the tailor ends up selling Shimon's coat when he should have sold Reuven's coat. The next day, Shimon knocks on the door. So, "Can I have my coat back?" And the tailor thinks, "I'm in a real shtuch now." So the only thing he can do is give him Reuven's coat, the one he was supposed to sell.
Reuven is expecting to get some money back.
Oh, so that's right. So he does it to play for time. He gives Reuven's coat to Shimon temporarily, which he's allowed to do, as I think Martin correctly said, because at the end of the day, Reuven has given away his coat to be sold. So he gives him Reuven's coat temporarily until such time as he can retrieve Shimon's coat from Levi, the person he sold it to, and then he can do an exchange and get back Reuven's coat that was meant to be sold from Shimon and sell it. And Reuven,
So where's Levi's coat?
no.
Levi's the buyer.
You're overcomplicating. Levi's just a buyer. Don't worry about it. Levi's a buyer. Don't worry about Levi. Levi's just a buyer. You're confusing. You bring a Levi and you're confusing it. There's two people. There's Reuven and Shimon and the tailor. That's all. That's all it is. Reuven says, please mend mine, sell my coat. Shimon says, please do not sell my coat, right? He makes a mistake and he sells Shimon's coat. So what does he do when Shimon turns up at the door? He gives Reuven's coat, right? For how long? For a little bit, just a few days till he can go off. He's got time to go to the house of the person he sold it to, get it back. Once he gets it back, he's going to give the coat to Shimon, and then he will retrieve Reuven's coat, sell it as he was supposed to, and give the money to Reuven. It's a chochem. You got to be a chochem to be in business.
How can you give?
That's why I'm a rabbi.
How can you give someone's coat away that doesn't belong to you?
How can you give away someone's?
Coat is there for repair, not.
No, I think Martin has the answer to that because Reuven has been given the permission to sell this coat.
Yeah.
So this coat is now in Reuven's in what's it called, domain to sell. The woman's domain to sell. Mr. Schneider's been given Reuven's coat. Reuven just wants money back. So you want to say who gave him permission to give it temporarily to Shimon? But I guess he's doing it all just to make sure.
Yeah.
Selling.
No, he sold Shimon's
Sold the wrong coat.
But that still doesn't give him a right to give someone else's coat there.
Well, it does.
Okay, so the possession.
like a Ponzi.
So
Yeah.
it does.
It's like a Ponzi scheme. It's exactly like a Ponzi scheme. Yeah, just on a small level. It tells the guy, "Here's a lovely coat for you." But he doesn't have that money. Yeah.
No, he's not giving it away permanently. He's let it on loan until he can
Yeah.
get the other one back.
Yeah.
Because he's got to give the guy got a coat.
It's going to get.
No, it's a bit risky. I agree.
So the guy who he sold it to says,
I like this one.
"I like
Yeah.
I paid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, we don't talk yourself.
I mean,
It must be a mistake. I can't say to do that because it took a mistake.
look.
He
Tosfos.
had no permission to sell that.
Yeah. Look, Tosfos explains it a little bit more. Let's see this Tosfos inside. It's only short. It's the third. It's the first wide line. You see the chi? It's just an explaining Tosfos. V'chi ein adam asu lo mel'uman mechali talisi. That's what the Gemora said. Does a person not say to a tradesman? Does he never say to him, "Sell my talis"? The uman, and the uman makes a mistake. And he sells this guy's coat. Because he thought he was selling the friend's coat. And what he does is, as we explained, he gives him the friend's one in place. That's what the uman does, right? Temporarily, whilst he can get it back, so he can get it back. If it was not the normal way to tell an uman to sell, yeah, if that wasn't the norm, it would not be mutter simply because the uman made a mistake and gave him his by mistake. Let's say it wasn't the norm to tell tradesmen to sell things for you. So then you wouldn't be allowed to use it on the basis of simply the fact that he gave it to me by mistake. Because that's like mixing up in the base of the base mishta. And the end is going to be that the guy is going to go and return his to the tradesman. And he's going to go and claim from him his talus. So all Tosfos does is basically explain that the only reason we are allowed to let you use the coat in this case is because it's the norm, right? Is because it's the norm to act in this way. Because it's the norm for people to say this to the uman, okay, sell it for me, and therefore the uman seems to have a greater latitude to give out the coat temporarily whilst he retrieves it. Therefore you're allowed to use it. Now the Ritva has a question here and says, why is it that we're lenient? Why are we what's called toilet hokel? Why do we say, okay, here's the problem, right? If it's not the case that he said to the uman, please sell my garment for me, yeah, then I am using someone else's property without permission. So how can we like on the basis of the possibility that you might have said we can be lenient and allowed to use it at risk of using someone's property without permission?
When you say on the basis of the possibility, are you first required to establish whether that particular dry cleaner is in the business of selling on clothes?
No, we're saying it's an assumption that that's what happens.
A woman can, with a woman, this would be allowed. Until things to be here.
If you're
Because it's the norm, because it's the norm. Because it's the norm for that to happen.
in the norm of that profession for it to happen.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
the
yeah, woman.
person?
Yeah, people do this. This is a normal thing to happen. There's normally the Ritva says.
The norm is that he would be asked to sell a coat.
Yeah.
In this case, is not the norm. He's gone and sold someone else's coat.
Yeah, no, I get that. But Shimon, when he gets the Reuben's coat
Yes.
in error, is Shimon required to establish whether the woman is like
No.
normally?
No, it's not specific to this woman. It's not specific to women. The Brisa Paskins that you're allowed if you are given a mistake, a coat, a mistake in error by a woman, you are allowed to use that woman, that coat. And the reason is because of this svara that sometimes people say sell, and because sometimes people say sell, I'm allowed to use that. Now, that's a question. So I'm asking, why is that word? The Ritva says Pirush explains this. Since they were exchanged, we assume they were exactly equal. That's the starting point, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't exchange them, right? You normally pick up a coat that's exactly like yours. And therefore, this is a proof that this one person gave the coat to the uman to sell it with the exact amount that he fixed all the same as him. And the craftsman wasn't specific about the sale. And when he sold the first one, he thought it was that talis that that his friends gave, that the friend gave, who the guy who's giving the money. The guy who gave the money. So the chaver and Isratze b'mois, and the other one was happy with the money. Okay, so I think it's just 1 second. This first bit is just explaining it. Okay. He seems to be explaining here that for some reason, basically the uman owns it. That's the first point. The uman, the tradesman basically owns it. And he paid him a certain amount to have the right to sell it, right? Yeah, and he wasn't particularly, but he didn't look too closely, and he thought that it was of the other guy, right? So even if and he was I'm not exactly sure what he means, but it's basically first thing he's saying is that he's got permission. He effectively owns it because of this potential possible arrangement. The tradesman owns it, and therefore he's allowed to hand it on, right? How can we rely on this to be lenient? How can we be told on this? Maybe they're still maybe they're still both in the hands of the tradesman, and and they were exchanged. We don't do a dog with mechira. Maybe he just made a mistake. He says that with the sale, a person is not particular because the payment is equal. But when a person returns the talis, or when he hires out the talis, he's definitely specific to give back his own one. What does he mean? 1 second, I don't know what he means here. We seem to be being lenient here, and we're saying that that maybe they're both in his domain, they're still with him, and he made it and he mixed them up, and that allows you to use them. Yeah.
That's not, that's.
What? No, that's yeah, no, that's the point. The point is that there's,
Of course they're both.
no, it seems to be that they were both something. It seems to be something like they're both. He's got the ability to sell perhaps both of them.
Slightly changing what we were doing.
Well, we were assuming the Gemora says that people give permission to the woman to sell. That's what people do,
Yeah.
and as a result, we can say, well, he must have given permission to sell it.
Yeah, that's the point we can generalize.
Yeah. If he rents it out,
But maybe that point you before about if you've got the rights to sell it, he actually owns it at that point.
well, if there's an ownership there that allows you to do it, The question is, why should we assume that this was the case? Why should we assume because there's possibility you're allowed to do it? He seems to be almost saying, I think, that it is more logical to assume that the mix-up happened because he was given permission to sell. Because he was earning the same amount of money through selling items, therefore it made little difference to him. I think that's what he's trying to say. If this woman if it's normal for him to sell the garments that he's given to fix, then there's a logic to the fact that he mixed it up. It's a logical thing, right? I don't care. I'm getting £50 for this one, £50 for that one, so it doesn't bother me, right? So I sell this one or that one, whatever, right? If I'm being given permission to sell items, right? And therefore, that's why it's more logical for things to be mixed up. But whereas, if a person is not doing in the selling business, in other words, our concern that how can I use maybe no one gave permission to the woman to sell, but then it would be more likely that the woman wouldn't make a mistake because he's going to be much more particular. He doesn't want to ruin his profession and his trade. He's going to be much more careful to make sure that Joe Bloggs, who walks in the shop, gets Joe Bloggs' talus. You think about it, right? In other words, he seems to be saying, I think he's trying to say like this, that the element of the possibility that people give garments to sell, right, makes it more likely that that was actually the story of the mix-up. Because he's selling them and it's his own geschäft, like all I have to do is give you your money back. Therefore, I'm more likely to mix up. I'm more likely to forget who told me to sell or whatever, or which one was being sold, or maybe both people told me to sell and I just mixed up which one was confused. All these, you understand? Whereas if I'm a straightforward guy who just mends clothes and doesn't sell at all, it is less likely that there would be a mix-up.
You could argue the other way though.
That what?
Actually, if you're a professional seller, you've got a system, you know exactly.
Correct. But because I'm not giving back people's garments, I'm just selling on things that and I'm going to pay a fee. I get a fee or commission or whatever. So I'm less bothered by it. That seems to be anyway. That's basically
the expression they use here is earmarked for sale because it's got coats which are earmarked for sale.
Right.
So bothered if someone goes in.
Oh, do they bring the mitzvah here?
So earmarked for sale.
Okay.
So therefore, when someone takes it and uses it,
okay. Right. So let's get some. Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Yeah. Well, that's why you're allowed to use it. Yeah. Anyway, the Gemara qualifies this heta and says like this: Omar Rav Chia Barid Rav Nachman lo shonu elosh. This only applies for him himself. Avol ishto bonov lo. It doesn't apply to his wife and children. Right?
You mean to use the coat?
If it was, let's say, the wife of the owner, sometimes you go to the dry cleaner and he's busy, he's out of mincha.
Oh.
He's out of mincha, but his wife knows knows the shop, and she says to him, "It's okay." I said, "I'm desperate. I can't wait till he gets back from mincha. I've got an appointment." So she gives the coat to the guy who wants his coat back from the dry cleaner. So the halacha is you're not allowed to use it because it's much more likely she made a mistake. No. That the Svara doesn't apply. If the Uman gives it himself, right? if the woman gives it himself, we can insert this whole svara. I can use the garment. Why? Because I think it's quite likely, right? I think it's quite likely. Why can I use the garment? I can use the garment because this svara that maybe he was given permission to sell, and he made a mistake, and he gave my garment to Shimon, and therefore he's given me this to use. But that svara doesn't apply to the wife of the woman or the children. If they're manning the shop, they don't have such a. You can't say that was what was going on in their minds, right? And therefore, you're not allowed to use it if you receive them as wife or children. And he with himself as well, it only applies when he said to him, talis stam. He didn't specify, just a talis. I'm giving you a talis. I will talis. I love talis today. If he says I'm giving you your talis, he can't use it. Because if he says I'm giving you your talis, that's clear that this is not his talis. So in other words, what's the svara we're relying on? We're relying on the fact that the uman intended to give you someone else's talis because of this shtick that he needed to play for time to get your talis back from that guy. But if he said to him, here's your talis, then obviously that doesn't apply, right? He's giving you your, then clearly he thinks it's yours, clearly it's a mistake, and therefore it's the same as mixing up at the simcha hall.
So it only works when it's intentional.
Yes, that's the point.
Yeah.
Or, no, it only works when we can plausibly say that it was an intentional. That's the point. And we cannot plausibly say there was any intent if it was his wife or children, because they wouldn't do that, or he himself, if he said your talis. If it's your talis, he's obviously not going to do it, right?
Oh, you see, you're saying that the woman is deliberately and intentionally giving that code.
No, we are being tola. We are saying that since it's, well, that's what the Torah is trying to understand, why we can be tola. We're saying that since there's a possibility that he intended to give it to you to play for time, therefore you're allowed to use it on that basis that perhaps that was the case. And the Ritva, I think, is trying to say, okay, but so what? Like, how can I use it on the basis it might be? That's called a tali alakula. We've been told to be lenient, right? And the answer is because it seems to be a logical way of understanding how things can be mixed up. Because people are not particular if their job is to sell it. They are particular if their job is to return it without selling it.
Is this about?
That's why it's plausible to say that was what happened. But the Gemora is just establishing that it can only work in scenarios when it is actually plausible. Right?
Yeah.
Understand?
It does seem that there has to be quite a few criteria.
Well,
There is.
Before you can.
Yeah.
it seems to me this is about trying to find a case for the ratio to be different from the same.
It is.
That's all this is about.
Yeah. We have to explain it.
Same. One is where it's a normal.
Yeah, but we have to explain it. We have to explain it.
And one is
We have to explain it.
so this scenario does that. But it's a bit convoluted.
Yeah, but it's a logical way of explaining the difference. Let's see the Rashbam. It's only permitted when he's allowed. When is he allowed to use it? Only when the the tailor gave it himself. Also, because we can say he gave it intentionally. If the wife and the children or the children of the woman gave it to him, you can't use it. Because you could say that they can say that they made a mistake. The woman as well. We only say that if he gave it, you're allowed to use it. When he says to him, take this talis. But this is why he did not say your talis, because this is not his. And intentionally, he gave him an exchange for his own talis, because he just said, take this talis. If he said to him, take your talis, then he thinks it's his. And it's a mistake. You're forbidden to use it without intent, without knowledge. And this is the halacha. Because basically the halacha of the sugya, which comes out of this sugya is I cannot use, if I take something as a mix-up, whatever, I can't use it, right? I can't use it. You're not allowed to show shlemidas. You're not allowed to borrow someone's garment without permission. Okay? The only case when it is allowed is when, right, it's plausible that things are given to sell. So I would say nowadays it's probably not shaykh this. It's probably not applicable. Because I don't think people give their, right? You think that applies nowadays? People don't give their items to be mended and say, or maybe, sell it for me or whatever, So I'm saying the baseline and the normative position is, right, is that, it's all the same, no matter where it is. If you think you've got, or you've got someone else, hey, it's not my coat, you can't use it, right? You can't use it because you're Shor Shlomidas, you're borrowing something without permission. All these sukkahs have come up from Mitzvah. You can't use Shor Shlomidas, you can't borrow something's item without permission, you're not allowed to use it, right? However, only in a case where you can plausibly say that it was that the Uman intentionally gave it because the Uman had permission to sell, etc., then you can use it.
So when the woman says, here is the Toras.
Yeah.
Not your,
Yeah. That's when you can use it.
Is the woman saying that because he knows it's not his Toras? Is that the point? In other words,
No, it means that we got a plausible way of saying that he did it intentionally. He might not have, but because he just said here is a talus, therefore it's still plausible. It's plausible. All we want is plausibility.
No, but are we constructing the scenario where the woman is setting out to deceive?
No. Well, a little bit.
He is, because
A little bit like the Ponzi scheme. He's playing for time. He's playing for time. Yeah, but that's I think what there is. Yeah.
Adversity sets on your coat something.
So,
He's giving someone else's coat to him, his talus to him.
yeah.
He's deliberately saying, here's a talus, it's not your talus. So is that what we're saying?
Again, I didn't fully understand the first part of the Ritva, but that's why I think he was coming to answer that the Uman is not deceiving the original owner because he had permission to do so.
Yeah.
And he's not really deceiving.
No, he's sold the, he's
He's not okay. He is deceiving him a bit in the sense that he's temporarily giving him someone else's coat till he gets his back. Knowingly. But we're not. But listen, we're not trying to.
So Shimon walking down, it's very okay.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't feel like my kid.
That's right.
My kid.
Yeah. Martin's exactly right. We're not.
Second, I know these some people's good.
Yeah, exactly.
So my kid by extra.
That's right. Azoi. That's it. Yeah, that's it. We're trying to work out a solution for the Ummah, right?
The first part.
Yeah, for the first part, right? It's like sometimes you get a shaila. Sometimes you get a shaila where someone asks me a shaila, for example, and they say, and you tell them the answer, and then they say, I really didn't want you to give that answer. Sometimes it goes both ways. Not by sometimes lenient, sometimes too strict. You can't win. I said, my job is to give you what I feel is the correct answer. Well, you gotta handle that, but I can't.
It's too lenient. You can carry on wearing someone else's coat.
Because no, it's a fascinating thing. I get it both ways. Rabbanim get it both ways. You got people who think if you give them an answer as a mutter, they're like, really? And if you're like, it's osa, is there no way out? Like you can't win. Do you know what I mean? You can't win, right? It's like your job is to give the right answer. I can't. So no, I'm saying it's the same as this, right? The answer is Shimon wants to know, can he use his coat? Right? Let's find a solution for him.
Yeah.
Martin gets 5 stars, gold stars. Move away from the whole issue of what's in the mind of the woman. You just got to deal with the.
That's right. Now, Omale Abai Lerova. Right, let's try and finish the sugya. Omale Abai Lerova. Abai said to Rava, "To achli loch ramoy de Pumbedisa my ovdi." Come, let me show you the deceptive people of Pumbedisa, how they behave. Pumbedisa, in a number of places in the Gemora, did not have a very good reputation. The one in Chulin says, if you borrow money from someone in Pumbedisa, you should change your lodgings. Why? Well, it's like if a person thinks they might be being watched or the same like a hitman, you should vary your run, right? So vary your routes. Yeah, absolutely. But there were people there who have ill repute. And a few places in the Gemara mentions them, right? Rashi Yeah. I think this is where he's borrowed money. He's lent money to you. Anyway, whatever. What do they do? Amalei says to him, "Havli sarbeloi." Right. So what happens is the Balabaya says to people. They said to people, someone in Pumbedisa, one of these people. These not all of them were deceptive. Those who were sarbeloi, give me sarbeloi, my talus. I gave you talus to fix. He rocks up at the house of the dry cleaners and says, "Can I have my coat back?" Omalei says to him, he says to him, right? Lo hoidvar me'olam. What are you talking about? You never gave me anything. He said to him, I've got witnesses that saw the coat in your house. Okay? All right? But it said Rashbam Azza, the Edom didn't really recognize very well that it's his coat. Yeah, but they saw a coat. And he's saying that's mine, right? Amalei said to him, so he says to him, the deceptive man says, that's another coat. Yeah, of course they saw a coat in my house, but that was someone else's coat. It's not your coat. So the guy challenges him again. Okay, no problem. Take the coat and let's check it. Let's have a look. Take it out. I want to see it. Amalei said to him, I'm not going to take it out. I'm not going to show it to you. Why should I show it to you? Why should I show it to you? Someone else's property. And that is the deceit, deceptiveness. He's managed to wheedle it around so he doesn't produce the coat. He knows that the coat really belongs to this guy. Yeah. The other guy has Adim that they've seen a coat in his possession, but the Adim aren't 100% sure that it's actually his own coat. It could be someone else's, right? And as a result, he has got a plausible way of saying, I'm not going to take it out. Why should I show you someone else's coat? Right. But really it is his. Okay. Really it is his. Rava says Shapir Omalei. Rava said that he's saying a normal thing. Even though they are deceptive, Rava said, Tabai, but really they're allowed to do this. Shapir Omalei. Why are they not allowed to say this? Right? So Raw Tanya. In our Mishnah, we say, in our Brisa, we said a Brisa earlier on Memheim with base. We said if a person sees the talis in the hand of the woman, and we said we pass on like a buy, that everything depends on seeing. If you saw the talis in his hand, with aid and whatever, then you're stuck. Then the woman can't claim ownership. But here you didn't see it. The Edom are not clear what they saw. They saw a coat. They didn't see your coat. So therefore, why are you not allowed to claim it? You understand? You understand how he's challenging him, yeah? In other words, because we've said that the only case when a woman is not believed is when you see the coat. You see the coat. Your coat is definitely identified in his house. He hasn't been identified. So, okay, it's not, they're not behaving brilliantly, but they're not actually doing anything wrong because there's no yeah. I mean, maybe they're not doing it wrong at all. Let's see the Rashbam. He says to him, it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the end. Craftsmen, tradesmen who bring them garments to fix. Come in hospitals, we say over there. If the Pumbedisa lends money to you, you should change your dwellings. Omar says in Balabayas, the Balabais says to Luman, Tavli sar beloi. Give me my garment. Talis my talis. Shamasati the cholasaket. I gave it to you to fix. The chaziyogabach begedechdro. They saw one garment, v'hushali, and that is mine. However, the case that the Gemora is talking about, the scenario is that the Edom don't really recognize whether it really belongs to him or not. It's not entirely clear. So you take it out. Take it out that Edom should see that you say it's someone else's, right? So witnesses should see. So take it out. Shiru Edim, that the witnesses should see. And take yourself away from suspicion. So, basically, produce it so that Edim can confirm. Yeah, Shiru Edim the Edim should see that you say it's someone else's. But I'll prove that you're telling the truth. Remove yourself from suspicion. So the Pumbedisa guy says, in truth, I'm not going to produce it, because of your empty claims. I should show you the property of others. That's the deceptiveness. He's not intentioning it for the sake of heaven, right? He's intending to steal the garment of his friend. Abai responded and said that this woman is responded reasonably. Even though they are deceptive, they are The halacha is like them. Because in this case, even kosher Jews are allowed to make this claim. Why? Top of the next omid, because Ra Tanya. Because we said, and the conclusion of the sugya was that everything depends on seeing the actual item, which means Ra Talisu Biato Uman, you see his garment in the hand of the Uman, Sheroya Achshav, he sees it now, Ube'edim, with witnesses. This one did not see his garment in the hand of the Uman. And even when the Edim saw it, they didn't really recognize if this was really his. There was no clarity in this case that the item was there. We established that halacha is like Abaye, that the case where an Uman cannot claim ownership is where you have identified 100% that your coat is hanging up in his cupboard. That is the case, and you haven't got that here. Well, it's either or. Either we can sit now, we walk into the shop and we both agree, hey, there it is, my coat. We both agree. That's one case. Alternative, we didn't. Well, yeah, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, the point is that the whole case when an Uman has no chazaka is where there is no possibility of disputing the fact that my coat is currently in your house. Right? That's when an Uman is out. That's when an Uman is out of the picture. Right? He's out of the picture. A craftsman is no longer able to say claim ownership if he's out of the picture. A non-craftsman can, potentially. Why? How can a non-craftsman claim ownership? So we said that as well in the previous sugya. Because with a non-craftsman, his starting point is much better.
He's got a miguri, you're going to see. No, he's got, isn't it about miguri?
Yeah, because he can say, I bought it from you.
Say, if it's non-cost, what is it doing in this session?
No, you can say I bought it. Or you can, yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, you've got what do you mean? Yes, I know that's your coat, but it's in my house. And the only reason it'd be in my house is if I bought it from you. Why else would it be in my house? And he's going to say, I deposited it with you. What are you talking about? You're not believed to say you deposited it with him unless you've got, Anyway, so now the Gemora carries on and says, Omar Ravashi says, if this claimant is wise, mashvile ra, he can make him into a situation where he creates a situation, or he creates a situation of ra, of seeing in his house. He can cleverly, with guile, shift him into a position until he has to show it to Adam. And once the Adam have seen it, it's game over for the Uman. How can he do that? Domale says to him, why did you take hold of it? Again, this is a little trickery. He says to him, why have you got my talis? Domale my tafistale, lamishum de islecha gaboy. Is it not because I owe you money? And you're worried I'm going to deny it. Therefore, that's why you've got my garment. You've got my garment because you are as a deposit or a pledge for some money. Hashta now, right? Take it out. You take it out. Afke v'lishaymei, right? Take it out and we'll evaluate it. Shokalat didoch, you take what's yours. Ve'eshkalano didi, and I'll take what's mine. In other words, he says things, challenges him like this. Why on earth are you holding on to my garment? It must be because you've got it as a pledge for some money that you hope to claim from me. But if that's the case, why take the whole garment? The garment's worth more potentially than the money I owe you. So let's evaluate the garment, and you take the value of the garment, we'll sell it, and you take the value of the garment that's equal to the loan that I owe you, and I get the rest of the money. And that's a clever way of getting him to pull out the garment because he's going to want to get his money. And if he pulls out the garment, you can then say, you're ruined. You've shown it to me now. And once you've shown it to me, that's it. You can't no longer claim chazaka and I can get it back. He can say to him, I'm not, he's got an easy response to this claim. He can say, I don't need your evaluation. The people who came before you have already evaluated it. I know exactly how much it's worth. Thank you very much. I don't need any evaluation of the value of this garment, right? Let's see the Rashbam. Second Rashbam, if the claimant is wise, he can make it a situation of seeing it. He can wheedle his way
Ishtadl means ishtadlus, right? He can wheedle his way with the craftsman with words, until he shows it to him in front of witnesses. But and since he shows it to him, once he's shown it to him, he's allowed to take it away from him. Because we said an uman has no chazaka where it's seen in his possession. He says it with him with guile secretly. Why have you grabbed hold of my talis? Is it not because you have money with me? And you're afraid I might deny that I owe you money. I'm not going to deny this. And you as well, don't deny me, don't falsify, don't deny what is rightfully me. And they changed the gears to sign and to hold back from the part of the garment which is extra and above the load. Opposite more than what I owe you. Take it out in front of people who are expert in evaluations. And we'll evaluate all. They'll evaluate it. And you take what's yours. And you give back more to me if there's extra. So Rav said Ravashi, he can simply get out of this by saying, the Oman will also be clever, and he will recognize his guileness, his cleverness. And the Yermani will say to him, I don't need your evaluation. Earlier people already evaluated before you came, and it's worth no more than the debt that you owe me. So he can immediately sense his what he's trying to do and counter it with his own counterclaim, and therefore refuse to reveal it. We know that Ora means cleverness in the Torah, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't say Mikol Odom, it does Mikol Achaya, yeah, and whatever. Anyway, it means clever, yeah? Clever, that's what it means, yeah? Orim Badas. Anyway, so that is that. Now, Tosfos says on the previous Amud, the second last Tosfos, this thing about the deceitful people in Pumpadisa, what does it mean that they say that they've got witnesses? Well, I've got witnesses, I've seen it with you, right? Pirush talis shoybo simonim ka'in sheli. They saw a talis that has signs like mine. That's what was going on there, right? Not that there were like Tvias Ayin means it clearly recognizable, but it was his. I've got Adim who saw a talis with simonim similar to mine. Okay, so that's why we said the Ramoim can be successful, because he can say that was another one. It's not clear. It's not clear. And when I try and make you produce it, you will say, I'm not going to do it. And once you do, if it's not seen, then it's not seen. It's not seen, right? So the Ravashi suggested there's a way of making him produce it. And Rav Acha says, no, he can always deny it. He can get himself out of it by saying, I'm not going to show it. By saying, I'm not going to show it. Right. Very good. Okay, so that's the end of the Sugya. Let me go back to the Mishnah. What?
It would rapidly lose his business.
Well, that's a different problem. Yeah. That's it.
Long-term business.
Yeah, no, that would regularly. So Mitzvah Hashem, the next year is, as I said, there's no ship the next 3 weeks. There's 2 weeks of Pesach, and I'm in Poland the Mitzvah the week after that. So it'll be the 13th of May. Have a wonderful Yom Tov. We'll see you beforehand.
Thank you.
Okay.